Okay, so we've seen how to run our code from a file, and we've seen how to do some simple comparisons. How to do something like, well, where's my console? Here we are. Is some variable, let's say age, greater than 18? But we haven't seen how to do anything using these comparisons. So I can check if this is true or false, but what if I want to have one outcome if it is true? Something as simple as printing good versus bad, or, enter the bar, or I'm sorry, kid, you gotta go home, you're not 18. Two different outcomes. How do we do that? Well, that's what we're going to see right now. We're going to talk about conditional statements. So making decisions with our code. And the first thing we'll see is the if statement. So down here, if, and then parentheses, some condition. Now this condition is simply anything that evaluates to true or false. So if it evaluates to true, the code in between these curly braces will execute. Now if that condition is false, nothing happens. Well, it's not necessarily true that nothing happens, but this code will not run. In other words, this console.log only runs in this scenario if the rating variable is exactly 3. And it's very stupid because we know it's 3. But imagine this is coming from a database or from a user or, I don't know, some library or some fancy website where we don't know what rating is. This is a way of saying if rating is exactly 3, do this. So this syntax is incredibly commonly used. We'll see it all over the place. If, parentheses, some condition in that parentheses or inside those parentheses. So let's try it. I'm going to make a new file just to get a little bit more practice here. Conditionals. And just so we're clear here, this is an if statement, but we can combine this with other pieces like else if and else to form a full conditional. But it doesn't really matter in terms of terminology. I'm going to call this conditionals. I'm going to include a new script that doesn't exist yet. New file, app.js. I'll put some code in here. I always just like to make sure it's working. Console.log. It's working. Include my script. Script, source. Well, I did the wrong autocomplete, but we can add source ourselves. App.js. Open it in my browser. Here it is. Refresh the page. Go to the console. Perfect. It's working. Okay, so let's now actually do our own conditional. Let's create something really simple, like if, and we can do something trivial. If 1 plus 1 triple equals 2. Curly braces, console.log. How about math still works? Okay, so if that's the case, 1 plus 1 is 2, well, hopefully. I refresh, and we get math still works. Now, if I put something else after here, console.log, after conditional, and I'll do one before as well, console.log before, and I save, I cannot spell, but that's okay. I refresh, we see all 3. But if I change this condition to now be if 1 plus 2 equals 2, well, we know that's false. We just get before and after. But I want to be very clear, if this is false, only the code inside the curly braces does not run. It doesn't stop everything. Our code still lives on afterwards. It's just this stuff doesn't run. And I can have as many lines as needed in here. So instead of doing if 1 plus 2 equals 2, why don't we do something more like, let's pick a random number, okay? So math.random. Remember, that gives us a tiny little decimal between 0 and 1, math.random. And let's pretend I'm flipping a coin or something. So I'm going to save that math.random to a variable. I'll call it let rand, or random, equal math.random. Now, I'm not going to be able to do a comparison with equality. I mean, I could, but our random number is something crazy like that. So I'm not going to be able to say if random equals that. We'll be here all day. But what I could do is just say, is random less than 0.5? So if random is less than 0.5, it's between 0 and 1, so roughly half the time it should be less than 0.5, and the other half it should be greater than. If that's the case, I'll do something like console.log, your number is less than 0.5, right? And then I could console.log the number too. Why don't we do that? Console.log, I mean our random number, not the actual digit 2. Console.log random. All right, and let's just get rid of before and after. You already saw how that works. Let's refresh. Nothing. So that must mean that our random number was not less than 0.5. One more time. Nope. Again. I'm still refreshing. Hey, finally worked. Your number is less than 0.5. We got 0.416, blah, 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 blah. Try again. Here we go. Your number is less than 0.5, 0.09, small one. Okay, so this is the basic syntax of a conditional. We can have as many as we want. I mean, I could do something like this. If random is greater than 0.5, I should do greater than or equal to, technically, just in case there's that magical chance that it actually is exactly 0.5. If that's the case, let's just duplicate this. Your number is greater than. Now this seems kind of silly to do it this way, and it is. I'll show you a better way in the next video, but this will work. If I refresh, now we get your number is greater than 0.5, and here's the number. Greater, less, greater, and less. So we have two different ifs, two things that we're checking. Is random less than 0.5? Do this. Is it greater? Do this. All right, so this is our first piece, the if statement. Simple enough, hopefully. We have if, and then in parentheses, something that evaluates to true or false. We'll see more and more complex stuff that can go inside of those parens, but at the end of the day, they all evaluate to true or false. A binary, Boolean, yes or no. So next up, another piece of our conditional.